Alrighty, everyone. This is meteorologist Timmy Albertson here with you guys. Happy Friday evening. We'll kind of make this weather chat slash tropical update a little on the short side. We do have some updates on Hurricane Lee. For those of you who do watch these updates here, you probably already see me talk about the Saffir-Simpson scale before. I'm just going to bring it up here really quickly for those who might be watching for the first time. You're going to hear terms like Category 4 hurricane, all that stuff. What exactly does that mean? In meteorology, as I mentioned before, we like to categorize everything. Everything has a category, which is nice and also just kind of funny when you think about it, that we give everything almost a category, and hurricanes are no exception to that law. We categorize them. Now, the weakest of all the tropical systems is the tropical depression. Those do not get named; those just get a number. Hurricane Lee was Tropical Depression 13 a couple of days ago. And then it became a tropical storm. A tropical storm is when the winds of the system get to about 39 miles an hour, and at that point, that's when we name them. So Tropical Depression 13 became Tropical Storm Lee. Once it becomes a tropical storm, it gets that name and it keeps that name for the rest of its life. Even if it goes back down to tropical depression status, it'll still maintain its name. However, if it continues to intensify up to winds of about 74 miles an hour, it becomes a hurricane. And hurricane, we have 5 categories of hurricane. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 is the weakest, 5 is the highest. And a category 5 hurricane is ones with winds of 157 miles an hour or greater. There's no upper bound to it. Just like an EF5 tornado is winds of 200 miles an hour or greater, no upper bound for it. So earlier today, Lee was a Category 5 hurricane with winds estimated of 165 miles an hour. And then it had a little bit of a problem during the day today. It looks like it might have sucked in a little bit of dry air in the mid-levels, and that has kind of made Lee look a little bit on the ragged side here. As a matter of fact, if we take a look at it here on the satellite imagery, you can see that overall it does not look quite as defined as it did this time yesterday. Yesterday we were looking at it, it had a very nice eye. Overnight it looked pretty well, and even this morning it looked pretty awesome on the satellite imagery. Now, not so much. Now, there is a little bit, there's still somewhat of an eye there, very hard to see. Not only that, but it does look like that, the internal workings of it are still working for the most part. But because it's not looking quite as nice as it was earlier, and based on a few other things, it's now back down to Category 4 status with winds of 150 miles an hour. So what is Lee expected to do? Well, Lee, may kind of continue to get beat up just a little bit here of some of the drier air, but it's likely going to maintain its intensity, give or take a few miles an hour here and there. And we'll see what it does overnight tonight. But there is a little bit of uncertainty in the long run with Lee. And part of that has to do with something known as an eye wall replacement. Now, this is something that long-term hurricanes go through. It's basically they switch out their eye wall for a whole new one. When it does that, it actually does weaken just a little bit. So that also makes the intensity forecast just a little bit tricky. Right now, it's kind of competing with a little bit of a ridge here, and we'll kind of take a look at the forecast a little bit here. I'll show you a couple of models for those who might be kind of interested in that stuff. We'll just take a look at 2 of them kind of quickly, and I'll kind of walk you through it here. But before we get to that, let's take a look at the rest of the Hurricane Center's track. And that is that it's going to at least stay a major hurricane, which is Category 3 or higher. That's what those M's are on that map. It's going to maintain at least major hurricane status through the remainder of the forecast. It's not going to be moving too fast once we get towards the end of the weekend. And part of the reason for that is right now it has there's a little bit of a ridge up to its north that's kind of helping to push it along a little bit. But that ridge is then going to start to kind of taper down, and Lee might move a little bit further away from that, which will cause its speed to slow down a little bit. Then things get a little bit tricky. And part of the trickiness with that is that it looks like it's going to want to start to maybe turn to the north, but we have to kind of wait and see. Now, again, this is only a 5-day forecast, so there still is some uncertainties even beyond the 5-day forecast there. So let's kind of take quickly a quick little look here at a couple of little models here, and this might kind of help to illustrate it maybe just a little bit more here. So I'm going to flip over the screen really quickly here. And again, we're not going to go too in depth with this, but let's take a look here. There you go. I'm going to flip off my old video here so you don't have to see me and block some of the images. But basically what you're looking at are 4 panels. Don't worry about the bottom 2. We're not really going to talk about that. The one right here that you see on the right is sea level pressure, mean sea level pressure, I guess I should say. So, your highs and your lows. And on your right here, you see basically the average wind speed in the mid to upper levels, as well as the height gradients. Now, don't worry about the height gradients. Basically, what you need to know is if you look at the surface here, we got this large high pressure right at the surface, about 1024 millibars. Here's Lee down here. Now, if you are a tropical system, or, well, I guess not just a tropical system, but low pressures cannot move a high pressure, right? That high pressures are the dominant one, and they have, and so a low pressure, which a hurricane is a very, very, very low pressure, it has absolutely no choice but to go around it. So the way the air flows around an area of high pressure is clockwise. So again, Lee down here, there's that kind of easterly wind pushing it along, and there is Lee. So that is what's kind of helping Lee move almost to this kind of a west-northwesterly direction as it's trying to, navigate itself around this area of high pressure. All right, let's go forward here. And again, this is just one particular model. Don't take it exactly as is. We're just kind of using this for illustration purposes. But as we go into the day tomorrow, you can see that high pressure kind of begins to crack a little bit in the middle. And that was actually going to help Margot, another tropical system that we haven't talked about yet today, but it is there. That might help it kind of be able to move a little bit north. It kind of wants to turn north, and there appears to start being a little bit of a break in that high. We're also starting to lose that high pressure a little bit over across the North Atlantic. So you can see not quite as strong at this point, but still there, enough that Lee still has to navigate around it. But remember that cold front that we were taking a look at yesterday, and we'll take a look at it again? Well, it's associated with this basically upper level trough, and that's what this is right here. See that little L there? And see how those black lines are kinked downwards? That is a trough of low pressure, and that is going to try to start hatching away at this, upper level high or upper level ridge that's just off to its west. That will provide an opening for Lee to then start to want to take a little bit of a northwesterly turn. All right, now it still has that high pressure to deal with, but now that high is not quite as strong. Take a look. You can see it kind of falling apart by the time we get towards Tuesday, moving way away. That'll help out Margot to kind of continue to move north, and then it's going to kind of give Lee a little bit of a path. Now, overall, if we back this up a little bit, you can see that that trough moving towards the East Coast quickly weakens. But then take a look. Here comes another one as we go into the middle part of next work week. This one much more defined. All right, this is going to obviously bring some rain and maybe some cooler temperatures across the Great Lakes. This will be an area of low pressure at the surface. We can see this particular model picking it up over here. Long story short, upper level winds really going to be kind of moving along the base of that upper level trough. And eventually Lee is going to find that trough. It's going to kind of like it. And you can see how now they're going to kind of work together. You see Lee's going to start turning up towards the north. And there you go. So where is the uncertainty in the forecast? Well, by this point, we're looking out 8 days. All right. So there's a lot of things that could change with this particular forecast. So keep that in mind. But this is kind of where some of the uncertainty is right now beyond the 5-day forecast. Again, the Hurricane Center only goes out 5 days. And so that map we had was Wednesday, okay? Here's Thursday, and now here's Friday. So you can see that's going to be right when Lee's going to start making a turn. So what is Lee going to depend upon right now is this trough. We are going to have to keep an eye on this to see exactly when this guy arrives, because that will help Lee to eventually want to make a northerly turn. Now, as far as the intensities are concerned, well, we already talked a little bit about, some of the things that Lee has working against it. And eventually what Lee is also going to have working against it is wind shear. Now, for the most part, tropical systems do not like wind shear. They just do not, okay? It ruins their whole vibe. It's kind of funny because normally when we talk about strong thunderstorms, we talk about them needing wind shear. Well, in this case, if you are a hurricane, you don't want wind shear most of the time. All right, it just does not do well. So keep in mind here that as we get, this trough to begin to arrive, that is going to add some wind shear. And that's actually what you see this map down here is, again, looks like a lot of a mess here, but this is actually a wind shear, map. So you can see here, it's really increasing ahead of Lee's path. And that is eventually probably going to result in Lee beginning to weaken. So that's kind of the atmospheric setup. I know that's a lot of information. If you didn't understand it all, it's quite all right. Basically, I just kind of wanted to use it more as a visual here of what's going on with Lee. So that's where the uncertainties lie. Again, we'll have to keep an eye on that upper level trough as it swings its way through. And then, obviously the bigger one will be trying to make its way through as we go into the middle part of next work week. And that will play a big impact on what Lee eventually decides to do. It will likely turn northwards. And if we go back to the Hurricane Center's track here, you can actually kind of start seeing that they're already beginning to have it turning towards the north there by the time you get to Wednesday. See how it goes from that straight northwesterly path and then it just turns, start to turn a little bit more. So again, what we looked at on the model with that trough and everything, that is going to be, happening right at the end of this particular forecast run. So, just kind of what to expect now is we're probably going to start seeing, the forecast track having it going a bit more to the north, just a question of when. So over the next day or so, Lee's going to maintain its intensity. Again, it might go through an Iowa replacement. We'll see if it can get rid of this drier air that's really kind of messing it up just a little bit. Which is very interesting because, like I said, Lee intensified pretty quickly. Normally you'd expect it to hang, pretty good for a little while, but the fact that it got kind of beat up so easily is kind of interesting. But you can still see the rotation on it, and who knows, as we go through the overnight tonight, it could start looking pretty good. So let's talk about that cold front. Talking about if we go back to that particular, that one little model here. I mentioned that there's that first trough making its way off the east coast here. We'll go ahead and just show you guys it really quickly one more time. I'll take my screen off really quickly, and then trust me, we're going to be done with this graphic. But right now, when we were taking a look at it, there's that trough right now. It's the one that's helping to produce some strong storms across parts of the East Coast, Mid-Atlantic, up into parts of New England. But that is going to eventually begin to weaken. That front slows down, and you can see how that whole upper level trough just kind of quickly weakens away. But then here comes the bigger one back here. So again, what's going to try to maybe kind of at least maybe try to crack the glass of this upper level ridge, believe it or not, are those storms that we have over across the East Coast. So let's take a look here at the latest radar imagery here. And basically, before we go far into that, take a look here. I want to show you guys that we have this cold front that runs right here, and there's also a second one that's stalled out. So again, this is all kind of the same system, but this is eventually going to kind of more or less stall out. It's going to probably have to wait for the next system to kind of finish pushing it through. So these storms that we see right now up and down, the Mid-Atlantic and up towards New England, those are associated with that upper level trough that right now is trying to at least put a little bit of a crack in the larger high pressure over the Atlantic. Again, this is all happening in the upper levels, so, but it's pretty cool though. So that's giving New England quite a stormy afternoon, as well as the Mid-Atlantic. Let's take a look here. Some strong storms up in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Now these areas are, they're not unused to strong storms, but they've had some good ones in their day. Springfield had a was an F3 tornado back in 2011 that went through there. I believe it was Springfield, and then I know Worcester had a pretty good F4 tornado back I think in like the 60s or whatnot. So, but we're not talking about tornadoes today. Today, what we're talking about are some hail and some gusty winds with these thunderstorms here. So again, a lot of moisture to work with here. Enough daytime heating. Let's take a look here. This one right up here that is in New Hampshire, just outside of Manchester, 1-inch size hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. So it's right at the threshold of a severe thunderstorm warning. Based on these radar scans, I could easily see it having some of that small hail in there, maybe, probably dime size at least. Again, it doesn't appear that there's much in the way of rotation. Let's go ahead and flip over to the old velocity here really quickly. Let's just take a look at the structure here of the storm. It does not appear that it really has any organized rotation with it, which I guess is to be expected. These storms probably aren't going to be doing much rotating today, as they will be, gusty winds, heavy downpours and maybe a little bit in the way of some hail there. So those are kind of that's kind of the most active thunderstorm weather kind of happening, at least right now. You can see the severe thunderstorm watch that goes all the way from Maine, parts of Maine, all the way down to northern Virginia. So let's take a look here. There was actually a really nice looking storm earlier right around the Washington, D.C. area. Let's see if we can't pick it up on the Baltimore radar. It looked pretty good a little while ago. It looks like maybe not quite as much. Still has that severe thunderstorm warning on it, though, and that is being warned for 1-inch size hail and 60-mile-an-hour winds. So again, all these kind of barely at the severe criteria. We have gotten some hail reports across parts of the East Coast, including up around Buckingham, Pennsylvania, north, or excuse me, not Pennsylvania. That is, no, that's in Pennsylvania, sorry. It also includes part of New Jersey. Yeah, that's what threw me off there. It was Trenton. I just had Trenton. Anyways, so we're looking just north of the Philadelphia area. You can see a couple little hail reports, a few little wind damage reports. Let's see here. Reports trees and wires down across Plumstead Township from a thunderstorm that went through there just a little bit ago before we did this chat. Let's see if we can flip up the Philadelphia radar. That storm is looks like it has since left that particular region. Let's go ahead and we'll flip over really quickly. Yeah, so that storm has left. Looks like it was a while ago. So there's that. All right, everyone. That is kind of what's going on right now. I just figured I'd give you all an update. It's Friday evening. So with that in mind, we will be back tomorrow, though, probably in the afternoon. And the reason for that is that we have a buoy out in the open waters of the Atlantic. This guy right here. This one is going to be getting kind of a close pass to Hurricane Lee, probably as we go into, let's see, what is that going to be? That's tomorrow afternoon, yeah. So tomorrow afternoon during the football games and everything, we'll take a quick little look over here and we'll watch to see what this buoy looks like here. Again, it's not going to be getting a direct hit, at least right now. That's not the way it looks, but it'll be getting a pretty good close pass. So we should be getting some pretty interesting video or pictures, at least, especially since it'll be during the day. So we'll definitely hop back on and maybe take a little bit of a look at that as we go through, the day tomorrow. So that should certainly be pretty interesting there. Right now, it looks like it's pretty quiet there. We see some clouds off in the distance, though. Some of that probably is Lee. And let's see, their winds right now, 26, gusting to 26 miles an hour. Yeah, so this will probably be a pretty good view as we go into the day tomorrow. So make sure you tune in then. All righty, everyone. Well, I hope you all have a good rest of your evening, and I look forward to seeing you guys back here tomorrow. Hope you all have a good one, and keep enjoying that weather. Thank you, everyone.